Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This is your host, Vana, the founder of the Period Makeover Solution and Fertility Maximizer. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about weight loss and fertility and how weight loss might actually be hurting your chances of getting pregnant. So, if you are someone that is currently in that season of trying to get pregnant and you've been told if you lose weight, it might help your fertility. It might help improve your chances of getting pregnant. Or if you've been thinking about that, or you have received that advice, even if you haven't taken action on it yet, this is going to be a really good episode for you to listen to because we're going to talk about kind of the ins and outs of this, why sometimes it's not a good idea, why sometimes it is necessary, and if it is necessary, how to approach it in a strategic and smart way. And I know that this topic can be very confusing and emotional for a lot of people because anytime we are discussing our weight and we're also discussing something as important to us as our fertility, there is a lot of emotions and feelings that go into both of those topics, much less when we combine them. So I definitely want to say up front in this episode that what I'm going to say in this episode and the reason that I'm bringing this episode up is not to shame anyone, not to point fingers and say you're doing this wrong. It's really just serving. I want it to serve as a resource for you to get some more in-depth information on the topic and some tools that you can kind of put in your back pocket for ways to help you do this in a strategic way if it is, a step you feel that you need to take in your fertility journey. So, I want to talk about why it is that this goal of weight loss and this goal of getting pregnant sometimes can't coexist at the same time. The number one reason is that when we are pushing our body towards weight loss and we are doing things such as dropping our calories or increasing our movement by a significant amount, that can put a stressor on our body. Now, you guys have probably heard me say before that our body's number one job is to keep us safe and keep us alive. And when it interprets certain things as stressors, or as there being a lack, like in the sense of a lack of food, a lack of resources, then our body is really just focused on trying to keep us alive. And there are certain processes within the body that being very smart, this is not a fault of our body. This is like primal instincts, how smart our body is. But there are certain processes that it can shut down and stop prioritizing when our body interprets this need to literally keep us safe, keep us alive. And unfortunately, one of those things is our female sex hormones and the other things that impact our fertility and our body's ability to get pregnant. Basically, our body will keep us from getting pregnant if it does not believe that we have the resources available to like sustain that healthy pregnancy, or our body will almost interpret, because pregnancy takes a lot from our body. Let's just be honest. We are creating a human. We are giving a lot of vitamins and minerals and nutrients to that human as we grow it. Our body can see that as a threat when it feels like there is not already not enough, fuel and resources to just keep you alive and safe and happy. So our body, in its attempt to keep us safe, will prevent us from getting pregnant. And one of the ways that it does that is by interfering or kind of stopping, shutting down, however you want to classify it, ovulation. And we have to be ovulating, regularly and have a healthy ovulation in order for us to successfully get pregnant. Um, Now, as I said in the beginning, there are obviously different ways that we can go about weight loss, and there are some healthier ways to go about weight loss than others. And we're going to hit on some of those topics. And, first, we're just going to talk about the low calorie aspect of things. Our hormones require us to have adequate fuel, and that is calories, fats, all of we get cholesterol from the foods that we eat, that then we have to have cholesterol to create progesterone. We have to have progesterone after we ovulate in order to have successful implantation and maintain that pregnancy successfully until the placenta is formed. When we are lacking in our calories and we're eating a really low calorie diet, whether it's intentional or unintentional, because, one thing that I have kind of failed to mention up to this point is that sometimes we can be unintentionally under eating as well. But I think you guys have probably heard me talk about that, you know, before in the past. I have other podcast episodes about that. You could go back and listen to episode 93, where I kind of hit home on the unintentional under eating and um, weight loss. But in this episode, I really wanted to talk about, the more intentional um, approach to weight loss while also trying to get pregnant. Um, so when we, the things that we see, that are a little like more tangible that will start to show up if you are under eating, under fueling, not giving your body enough. You're going to notice that your cycles are irregular. You might even miss a whole month of not having a period. Your energy levels are going to be low. You're probably going to be experiencing more PMS related symptoms when that time comes, in terms of mood swings, cramping, just generally not feeling well, having more cravings. And then if you are currently tracking for ovulation in some way, you may be finding that even if you're having a period, so even if you're bleeding every cycle, you might not be successfully ovulating. That's kind of the tangible pieces that we can see, just you can kind of even observe in yourself. Now, obviously, with my clients who are working with me, who are doing some functional testing and we're doing mineral testing with, we can see this on a mineral test as well, because as I said earlier, when you're not consuming enough calories, you're likely also not consuming enough minerals, vitamins, and a variety of nutrients that your body really needs in order to thrive. Another component that we have to really think about here is that our blood sugar stability is is very dependent on what we are consuming and what we are taking into our body, and the quality of those foods and the amount of those foods, and also the timing of those foods. So say that you're listening to this episode and you're like, well, I have started intermittent fasting in order to cut back and try to lose some weight before I get pregnant or while I'm trying to get pregnant. You are probably skipping breakfast in that scenario, meaning that you're going from dinner the night before until lunchtime the next day without eating. And that gets into, depending on the individual timing, that gets into 16, 17, 18 hours that your body is going without any food. Then you sit down to have lunch and you're probably really hungry. And you, at that point, it's likely that your body is craving foods because it is literally starving. And you might consume a meal that is higher in carbs or maybe some sweets because of that true hunger that you're feeling. And even just kind of regardless of what you eat, when you have went that long without food, if we were looking at your blood sugar levels on a CGM chart, a continuous glucose monitor, if you were wearing one and we were looking at the chart, we would see that in that, a long period of time where there was no food, that your blood sugar levels would be very low. But then it's like all of a sudden you hit it with this food and all of this glucose from your food that your body's breaking down. And it's like, what is happening here? Your blood sugar spikes up and your body is going to, in response to that, release insulin, which is what it's supposed to do. We want that to happen. But sometimes it can overshoot the amount of insulin that's going to be needed because there was such a dramatic shift in, the levels all of a sudden. And it will overshoot, release too much insulin. So then your blood sugar ends up crashing after you've eaten. And you kind of are then on this blood sugar roller coaster of these spikes and dips Whereas if you're consuming regularly timed meals, 3 meals a day, maybe a snack if you need it, you're kind of consistently giving your body fuel and therefore glucose, and your body is able to release that insulin just in a more steady pattern. Like if we were looking at a continuous glucose monitor chart, we would want to see rolling hills as opposed to spiky mountains, if that makes sense, if you can kind of close your eyes and visualize. And eating those well balanced, and again, I touch on the well-balanced meals and how to put that together in that same episode. That was episode 93. It's called Properly Fuel Your Body for Hormone Health. Um, but when we put that meal together that is balanced to support blood sugar, and then we're combining that with the fact that we're at regular intervals feeding ourselves, our body is just able to respond better to those changes and be a little more regulated. And that signaling between, hey, we're picking up that we've got this much glucose, we need this much insulin, that signaling is improved. Now, we, of course, cannot talk about weight loss in 2026 without touching on GLP-1s. And I will say right up front that I've kind of went through an evolution with the GLP-1s. This time last year, I would have told you that I was very much against them, that I thought they were being very heavily overused, overprescribed, and that we really needed to get a handle on it. I still think some of those things, but I'm not totally against them as much as I was in the beginning. I do still think they are overprescribed. I think they are overdosed. I think they are used inappropriately in a lot of cases. And I think that there are a lot of better ways that we could use this technology, this medication, um, in ways that were very effective for what the body truly needs from a GLP-1. I think that there are really good ways of combining the use of a GLP-1 with lifestyle and dietary changes. And I think that some of the resistance and hesitancy that people, and sometimes even myself, feel against or about GLP-1s is because we're widely seeing people just use them as a way to stop being hungry and rapidly lose weight. And they're maxing out their dosages and they're losing sometimes more weight than they even need to. And at the same time, not making improvements with their health habits, like the foundations. Like maybe they're still not, like eating very healthy foods when they are eating, and they are not exercising and not getting in movement and doing things to maintain their strength and build strength. Um, that's kind of, I don't want to get off of like a side tangent, but I just kind of wanted to like set the stage of where some of my thoughts are with GLP-1s before I get into this topic specifically around fertility. What I want you to hear from what I just said is that I do believe there are certain situations where GLP-1s can be used in a very smart and strategic way. When it comes to fertility specifically, there has not been enough research yet done to know what the impact to a developing baby is while the mother is taking a GLP-1. So across the board, the recommendations are to discontinue GLP-1s when you are pregnant, for sure. And a lot of people even recommend stopping them prior to trying to conceive because of those risks that are there, and because you know, we're not really allowed to study things like that. Like you can't set up a clinical trial and say, we're going to put these women on a GLP-1 throughout their pregnancy and we're going to just see what happens. That's unethical. Um, and that's just how research works. Now, as time goes on, there will be data gathered in situations where it was like accidental and that it happened, that somebody was taking it while trying to conceive. They didn't really realize they were pregnant yet and they were on it for a while into their pregnancy. Like that data is being gathered in the background in real time. But until we know more, it's not fully understood what the risk is of taking that GLP-1 while you're actively trying to get pregnant. So for my clients that come to me and they are questioning, do I need to lose weight? Is my weight factoring into my fertility? Tell me what I should do. Should I go on a GLP-1? Because I think that's a question that a lot of people are asking themselves lately, just because they are so widely being talked about and we're being very heavily marketed them. Um, there are times when weight is a factor in fertility and is likely negatively impacting someone's fertility, or maybe even just th their weight will impact their fertility when they do get pregnant. Like it's not the fertility aspect of it, it's how healthy are they going to be throughout a pregnancy and through labor and in recovery and things like that. If that's the case for someone that has, this is going to be somebody that kind of has a more significant amount of weight to lose. I really encourage those people to take a set amount of time and just focus on the weight loss that they need to accomplish, also during that time working on the foundations of good hormone health. And then when they've kind of reached whatever their custom like weight loss goal is, then they can flip over to their phase of, okay, now I'm actively trying to conceive. I'm actively trying to get pregnant. I'm not just, like you use that weight loss phase as a preparation for pregnancy phase. And then you flip over into a phase where you're actively trying to get pregnant. Some people don't like that response. Some people don't like that answer, but it is when you have a significant amount of weight to lose, it is safer for you and your future baby to do it that way. Now, if and in that case, you then could also utilize a GLP-1 and feel pretty safe about it. Now, if you're someone that is like, well, I don't have a significant amount of weight to lose. I just need to lose some weight. And I think it would help me feel better. And my doctor says it might help me to get pregnant. It might help increase my chances of getting pregnant. Um, number one, we've got a lot of questions to ask there. If your doctor is just blanketly like telling you that and they're stopping there, then there are some really like critical thinking questions that we need to ask. And it's like, well, why? Why do you think it is that my weight is impacting my ability to get pregnant? Because a lot of times what's going to come out of that is like, well, I think you have insulin resistance, and that might be impacting the health of your ovulation or your ability to ovulate. And it's like, okay, we take it another step further and we ask, well, why do I have the insulin resistance to begin with? And sometimes, I think it's like we don't know what we know until we know it. So we don't know to ask those questions. And I can't really say why the provider themselves are not going that deep with you, but sometimes, one of the ways that you can address insulin resistance is weight loss and increasing movement, specifically strength training. And I feel like the assumption or kind of the reason behind the recommendation of losing weight is they feel that, okay, if this person loses weight, then they're going to address their insulin resistance and that won't be an issue anymore. But for some people, you have skinny people that have insulin resistance. And it's not because of their weight. There's other reasons for it. So it's like we need to do our due diligence and ask the further questions, well, why, and dig deeper and get down to the root of like, what is really the issue here? Is the issue really that I'm overweight, or is the issue actually that I have a metabolic condition that I need to correct? And then if so, how do I go about that? Because the answer isn't simply just lose weight. I get really frustrated when fertility clients come to me and they're like, well, my doctor told me I need to lose 20 pounds. And they just like stopped there and they didn't give them any advice as to, and sometimes it's not that I want the doctor themselves to give the advice. I want them to give a referral. I want them to tell them, you should speak with a dietitian. You should seek out a reliable health coach. You should look into functional medicine. You should, like, they should be referring them to some expert. I appreciate the fact that they're owning that they aren't the nutritional expert, because doctors are not the nutritional expert. But I want them to guide the patient to not just go out on their own and like, best of luck figuring it out. Come back and see me when you've lost 20 pounds. That doesn't help anyone. Like, give them a direction to go. Give them hey, we have this local dietitian. She works with people on their weight loss. Hey, we have this functional medicine provider in the community. She works with people on weight loss. She can help guide you on this journey. It's really frustrating when they just turn people away from the office and say, lose weight, good luck. Call me if you need me, or make an appointment, Um, and the way that I guide my clients through this is complex. It's one of the first things that we address when they come in to work with me, because we need to get this baseline information on everyone, regardless of whether they have weight to lose or not. So the first thing that we're going to do is determine what your maintenance calories are. We're also at that same time, we're going to determine what your average caloric intake is on the average day or average week. From there, I'm going to teach you how to build these meals that are supportive of blood sugar balance while being like really satiating. So like, you feel full, you feel good after you eat them. And they're also supportive of blood sugar, and they also help you hit your protein needs. They're going to support your overall health, not just, like, we're not looking at it through one particular lens. Um, from there, we're then going to talk, if especially when someone needs to lose weight, we're then going to talk about their movement habits and activities. Like, are you sitting at a desk all day and you're barely getting 2,000 steps? Because that can be a problem. And here's how we fix that. Are you someone that does have some insulin resistance, and we need to get a plan together for how you can incorporate strength training into your routine to help address that? Are there, we do an HTMA test. I do an HTMA test with every client that I work with. And so then we can also see, like, do we have mineral deficiencies here that we need to address that might be impacting your metabolism, like your body's ability to burn through things. Um, and like I said in the beginning, like, I know that this is such a complicated, complex, and emotional topic. And at the end of the day, every client that has ever come to work with me that has been trying to conceive has been trying their best. They have been trying everything they know to do, that their best friend's sister's cousin did and recommended. Like, they're trying it all. Nobody is coming to me and saying like, well, I don't know, I just hoped and wished that it would happen, and they're not trying anything else. So there is never a lack of commitment or being interested in learning how they can better care for their body, how they can naturally and carefully and intentionally optimize their fertility. It's just that the education that's out there sometimes is lacking, which is why I felt like this was, important to address. And I know that it is a little bit of a tough love conversation that we have to have at some point, because there are some people that feel like, well, I do want to lose weight, but I do want to get pregnant. And I'm not saying that you have to choose one or the other, but you do at the end of the day have to really look at like what your current habits are and how you're caring for your body when you are asking your body to do such such a great amount of work for you in creating another human. And you know, we also have to remember that the goal with a pregnancy isn't always to just have a baby. Like, we also want to have a healthy baby. We want to have a healthy pregnancy. We want to have a healthy delivery and recovery from pregnancy and delivery so that we can then enjoy that healthy, beautiful little baby. And part of that puzzle piece is that we've got to have good nutrition and good foundational habits in place as a true habit. Like, it's something that has just become part of you and part of your everyday, um, that you're constantly working on, and you don't even have to really think about it anymore. You're making these choices because you know that they are what is best for your health and best for the health of your future baby. Um, so I know that this topic is a lot. I again want to acknowledge that there's conflicting information out there. And that's one of the reasons why it's helpful to work with a practitioner or a coach while you're trying to conceive, especially when you're not having any luck. If you've been trying for months, three or more months, and you are just month after month, you're starting your period or you're testing and you're seeing negative results, it's worth having someone by your side in your back pocket that can help you make informed, educated, strategic decisions about how you're going to move forward. It removes that need to like throw spaghetti at the wall and let's see if something sticks and helps us this month get pregnant. It keeps you from having to rely on, your best friend and her sister did this and her cousin did that and it worked. All this like conflicting advice. When you have a practitioner that you're working with, like in my program, Fertility Maximizer, I have a very strategic, like step by step process that I take my clients through. We are checking off all of the foundational boxes. We're doing that full mineral assessment. We are confirming that you're ovulating and when that ovulation is occurring. And we're looking at what is estrogen doing throughout your cycle and how it's fluctuating. And the same with progesterone after ovulation. Like, is it rising, to a point that we feel is sufficient to confirm that ovulation occurred and that would be enough to sustain that healthy pregnancy. So, you know, all of that to say, if you've listened through this episode and you're like, gosh, I didn't realize that this was such a big issue. Like, I wonder if I've been eating enough. I didn't realize that, me working on weight loss right now while also actively trying to conceive might be like the thing that is keeping me from being able to get pregnant. Which direction should I go? Then I invite you to go to the show notes, book a Happy Hormones Clarity call with me, and let's chat about it. Let's talk about where you're at in your trying to conceive journey. Let's talk about what you've done so far, what your current goals are, and let's see if working with me in Fertility Maximizer so that you have a straightforward path to take would be helpful for you. And that way you also would have me in your back pocket to say, I recognize your unique situation. I recognize and I know what your current health is. And I see that we have these factors that are likely impacting your cycle and your ovulation and your ability to get pregnant. And this is kind of the order in which we're going to address these issues or these problems or these hurdles that we need to overcome before you can get pregnant. I was doing some stat analysis on the program yesterday. And if you follow me on Instagram, you've already seen this, but I was very excited because I was breaking down the success rate of the program and how long it takes women to get pregnant. I was doing the math for a blog post that I'm writing, and it'll probably become a podcast episode in the future as well. But I'm so happy and excited to report that these stats are current. Like as of this morning, this is what the stats are. 28.5% of my clients get pregnant in our first month working together. At month 2, that increases to 50% of my clients. And then by month 5, 100% of the clients that I have taken through this program have gotten pregnant. And those stats are going to be ever changing because I have clients right now. I'm going to be adding clients, and I'm going to continually track this. And I'll probably be continually reporting it out every once in a while, because it's just good to see. It's a good reminder that for some people, we can make some basically slight shifts and get really clear on that ovulation timing and window. And it can be an absolute game changer for you. And you can like basically immediately within that cycle get pregnant. That happens. It has happened for 28.5% of my clients. Then there are other clients where it's like we are doing a little bit of deeper work. Maybe we have more to address. Maybe it just takes your body a little bit longer to respond. But by that second month, 50% of people had gotten pregnant. And then by month 5, 100% of these people have gotten pregnant. So it's a good reminder to number one, not give up, because what you're doing today impacts your egg health and your cycle 100 days from now, so about 3 months from now. But then also, like I said, as that reminder that sometimes you can have been trying for months and months and months, and there might just be like one little thing that needs to change, or a handful of small things that needs to change, and you can implement those things quickly and then get your positive result and your positive, healthy pregnancy. So if you would like to have someone guide you through that process to ensure that, you are checking off all the boxes and you're doing it in a strategic way, that has been proven to work, then joining Fertility Maximizer would be something for you to consider. And I would love to get on a call with you and chat about it and tell you more specifics about the program and hear more about your situation and what you've done so far on your trying to conceive journey, and just make sure that it's a good fit for you, it's a good fit for me, and then we can get started right away. So that link is always in the show notes. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you next week.